called Ontological Mathematics for the Curious, an introduction to ontological thinking by Dr. Cody Newman. The book was written in 2019, copyright by Dr. Cody Newman. So Dr. Cody Newman wrote this book. So the table of contents, it says Ontological Mathematics for the Curious, The New Paradigm, Nowhere to Go, The Failure of the Scientific Method, Empty and Blind, Occam's Razor, Decree and Abstraction, Particulars versus Universals, and lastly, Conclusion. So let's get to it. The New Paradigm. There's a new kid on the block, a subject that can revolutionize humanity's understanding of reality while being completely rational and logical and scrupulously avoiding faith and mysticism. It's the long-awaited replacement for science. Only one subject can take over from science, and that is the subject that is already at the core of science and gives all of it its power and success, namely mathematics. Science without mathematics is unthinkable. Mathematics without science suffers from no deficiency at all. Science is irrelevant to mathematics, while mathematics defines science. The great mathematician Carl Friedrich Gauss said, "Mathematics is the queen of the sciences." If mathematics is the queen, why do we need the pawns at all? Well, for mathematics to remove science from the picture, only one thing needs to be done. Mathematics must be assigned an ontology. Once mathematics is regarded as real and concrete rather than unreal and abstract, everything changes. There is simply no further need or place for science. You're probably imagining that this can't be done, that science can never be dislodged, but aren't you even slightly curious about what other is possible? If mathematics rather than science defines reality, reality becomes a radically different thing. Materialism is overthrown, and with materialism gone, so goes atheism, nihilism, skepticism, cynicism, and hatred of mind, consciousness, and free will that characterizes materialist thinking. Einstein wrote, "What separates me from most so-called atheists is a feeling of utter humility toward the unattainable secrets of the harmony of the cosmos." With mathematics, which defines the immaterialism of the mind, everything becomes soluble, and all the secrets are revealed. Mathematics is the subject par excellence for finding answers. If you want final answers, you must turn to the only subject that can deliver them, and that is mathematics. Only a mathematical universe has an exact answer, an exact definition, an exact formula. The formula for existence itself, there is one. And only mathematics can sweep away all the supposed unfathomable mysteries of existence. A mathematical universe, unlike a scientific universe, can support God, a hive mind God, not a monotheistic God, but the soul, an eternal soul, not something created. The mind, autonomous frequency domain that performs, the mind, an autonomous frequency domain that performs Fourier mathematics, directed evolution, its purposeful mind, not purposeless matter and randomness that drives evolution, its It's a purposeful mind, not purposeless matter and randomness that drives evolution. Singularities, immaterial entities, non-space and non-time, eternity and necessity, and the afterlife. Only physical bodies die. Eternal minds never do. And if science is true, religion and spirituality are dead. If ontological mathematics is true, religion and spirituality are born again, but in nothing like the terms pronounced by mainstream religion. So there would still be a, spiritual being that we can like all agree or to pray with, and this is me speaking, not reading. Let me go back. Mainstream religion is about mythos, a bunch of stories told by prophets and gurus and set down in holy books and sacred scriptures. Mathematical religion is about logos, and no one gets to use stories. Now, the medium of religion is reason, logic, and mathematics. Religion is now all about equations, formula, calculations, calculus, geometry, algebra, trigonometry, and so on. So beautiful. A single book on elementary mathematics contains more knowledge, wisdom, and truth than all of the mythos, religions, Judaism, Islam, Christianity inflicted on the human race put together. One single book of elementary mathematics contains more knowledge than the Holy Bible. What comes out at the end is not a belief system, but the ultimate knowledge system based on the principle of sufficient reason. The sole rational means for explaining why everything is thus and not otherwise. Ontological mathematics is simply the PSR turned into a complete and consistent, fully coherent and analytical system that can address and answer any conceivable problem. If you want the rational truth of existence, if you want to know the meaning and purpose of life, you have nowhere to go except ontological mathematics. Ontological mathematics is the universal language that supports the sacred geometry and the sacred algebra of the cosmos. It's the backup, the support, the blueprint, the knowledge that creates this. And this is me speaking. Back to the book. Forget everything you have been taught to think about religion and spirituality. It's all irrational nonsense. The rational truth is a much stranger and weirder thing. We are all in an enormous cosmic calculator, furiously calculating the answer to perfection. And we are all nodes in this calculator of calculation, helping the cosmos to arrive at the right answer and become God, to have an ultimate harmony, of a beautiful harmony. And this is me speaking. Back to the book. We ourselves are an essential part of the answer. The universe is not complete until each of us is individually complete. Where would you conceal the answer of existence if you wanted to never find it? Ask yourself that. If you never wanted to find the answer to existence, where would you hide it? You would hide it in the subject most hated by humanity, most dreaded by humanity, and most difficult for humanity, most avoided by humanity, the one humanity believes is the most abstract and the least connected to reality. Mathematics is all of that. So that would be the perfect place to hide the answer, because it is hated. I grew up hating math because I was taught in school a version that made no sense, that just was about dead numbers. Back to the book. Why hasn't humanity found the answer to existence? It's because it has explicitly shunned the sole subject capable of providing it. It has accepted anything other than mathematics. It has looked everywhere other than the right place. The last place it would ever think to look is the only place where the answer can be rationally found. Humanity has failed to find the answer to existence because there is only one place where that answer resides, and infinite places where it does not reside. And humanity has far preferred to explore the infinite wrong answers than the one right answer. The irony is that this is factored. Alexa, stop. The irony is that this is factored into the cosmic equation. How would we experience all of the incredible wonders of existence if we went straight to the right answer and solved the puzzle immediately, rather than circling around it for countless millennia? We are all the orbit of a unique, strange attractor, the final answer to everything, upon which all of existence will finally converge. Gary Taubes wrote, I don't know who Gary Taubes is, but sorry, back to the book. Chaos has its own pattern, a peculiar kind of order. This pattern is known whimsically as a strange attractor because the chaotic system seems to be strangely attracted to an ideal behavior. The strange attractor is the state of a mathematically chaotic system toward which the system trends. An attractor is called strange if it has fractal structure. Ontological mathematics is all about one system composed of myriad units, monads, which are eternal minds comprised of mathematical sinusoidal waves, and how these relate to each other and the whole. At the Big Bang, the whole disintegrates and each monad becomes a fragment. Let me reread that. At the Big Bang, the whole disintegrates and each monad becomes a fragment, a fractal. Benoit Mandelbrot said, I have no idea who that is, back to the book, a fractal is a shape made of parts similar to the whole in some way. He coined fractal from the Latin fractus, meaning broken or fractured. Ontological mathematics is a unique fractal system because all of the broken units necessarily start off as identical, not merely similar, and all necessarily end as identical, not merely similar. A convergent dialectic system of thesis, antithesis, and synthesis brings the fragmentary system to a perfect absolute unity. Yet the very fact of the dialect involving a constant clash of opposites as its primary driver means that no process could be messier and more violent than this one. Mathematical nature is red in tooth and claw. Ontological mathematics is a system based on only one thing: mathematical waves, sinusoids. The fundamental assertion of ontological mathematics is that monad minds. Let me reread that. The fundamental assertion of ontological mathematics is that monadic minds made of sinusoids can explain the whole of reality, literally 100% of everything. Is that hard to believe? Is it hard to believe that the fundamental assertion of ontological mathematics, the base assertion, the base thing that ontological mathematics says, is that monadic minds of like ourselves are made of sinusoids, which is ontological mathematics, sinusoids that you can prove are real because they are there. And it can explain literally 100% of reality. Is that hard to believe now when I say that? Because, well, there isn't a, I'm back to the book. Well, isn't it time you discovered the incredible, wondrous, astounding properties of mathematical waves, the entities from which existence is made? These mathematical waves are the basis components of minds. They are the basis thoughts of eternal minds. One wave is one simple thought, and when you combine simple thoughts, you create complex thoughts. As complex as you like, just as simple letters produce words, and words produce endless books. You think mathematics cannot explain love? Maybe you're thinking that, the book's just asking, do you think, can mathematics explain love? But it asks, you think mathematics cannot explain love, as if this is something that you had in your mind. So that's why I'm asking, because this is not something I had in my mind. And the way it's asking me honestly does kind of feel a little like you think, like, no, I never thought of that. But thank you for bringing that up. Back to the book. Mathematics is what love actually is. Love, perfect love, is zero mathematical entropy, where everything is literally combined in perfect unity. Are you curious? Then come inside and have your mind well and truly blown. Chapter 2, Nowhere to Go. At the moment, intelligent people have nowhere to go other than science, yet science commits all those people who subscribe to it to perhaps the most bizarre worldview ever devised by the human mind. A worldview rejected by 100% of humanity in the past ages. Let's go through some of the key positions you are signing up to if you believe that science is the only way to understand reality. Existence is meaningless, meaning appears nowhere in science. It is never once referenced. Science believes that reality can be explained without any concept of meaning. Existence is purposeless. When the scientific worldview took over from the Aristotelian worldview, one of the first things science did was to remove purpose, where purpose was essential to Aristotle's understanding of reality. It plays no part in science at all. According to science, nothing has a purpose. Nothing is trying to achieve anything. The fact that human beings themselves refute this, human beings are obsessed with purpose and trying to achieve goals, is dismissed by science as an inexplicable epiphenomenon or illusion. Human, science says, are made of purposeless matter and are subject to the purposeless law of matter. Hence, it is impossible for humans to have purpose. Purpose is never once referenced in science, and science believes that reality can be explained without any concept of purpose. Existence is pointless according to science, and existence has no point, it just is. The universe sprang into existence out of nothing, science tells us. Stephen Hawking said, "I think the universe was spontaneously created out of nothing according to the laws of science. There is no point to the spontaneous random creation as opposed to the design creation of, for example, the theistic worldview. Free will is an illusion. Humans are material objects subject to the laws of science. Matter does not possess free will, and the laws of science do not make free choices, hence free will is strictly impossible." Remember, this is what science is saying. Back to the book. You suffer from a double delusion, that you are free and that you are not in fact a mindless material biological robot with no say-so over anything you do. That's all handled by your matter and the laws controlling it. Science makes no attempt to explain why nature should pointlessly generate the illusion of freedom, given that no such thing actually exists. Also, if freedom does not exist, how can the illusion that it does exist be created? How can a strict unfree system produce a simulation of its opposite, a free system? That's a category error. Life is an illusion. All life is made of dead matter, hence life is only an epiphenomenon, illusion, or miraculous emergent property. There is no such thing as life in itself, substantive life. Life, such as it is only a peculiar and ephemeral relation between fundamentally dead things. Number 6, mind is an illusion. Science says we live in a strictly material world. There is no such thing as mind in itself, substantive mind. Mind, such as it is generated by the organization of material atoms, and when that organization breaks down, mind disappears. Humans are food reorganized. Physicist Max Tegmark said, "Imagine that all food you have eaten in your life and consider that you are simply some of that food rearranged. You are what you eat and drink. There is nothing else. Food, it seems, it's proto-consciousness. Consciousness can be extracted from food if food is arranged correctly. All that exists is observable. All that exists is observable. The scientific method is all about observation. Scientists regarded absence of evidence as evidence of absence. If it can't be observed, it can't exist. This is an article of faith for scientists. They refuse to consider the possibility of wholly rational and logical entities, those of mathematics, that cannot be perceived but determined everything in the observable world. Everything is empirical. Science revolves around all that is available to the human senses or to instruments that extend the human senses. Science places no reliance on anything that is not about the human senses or their extension. Science rejects the basic of rationalism, the principle of sufficient reason, and has no place for Occam's razor, the principle of economy. In fact, science enshrines no rational or logical principles whatsoever. These cannot be part of a paradigm based on sensory observation. Reason and logic are not perceivable. When an animal looks at the world, it does not observe reason and logic anywhere. So how can these be a part of an empirical science? Philosophically, science may be regarded as an extreme declaration of nihilism. It says, in short, that existence is random or spontaneous, involving some kind of eruption from nothing at all. It says that existence is pointless, meaningless, and purposeless. Life and mind have no reality in themselves and are strictly emergent epiphenomenon of the relations of lifeless and mindless things. Science has been successful ever since it embraced mathematics. Prior to that, it was not successful at all. Isaac Newton, with his seminal work, Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, may be regarded as the founder of mathematical science on the grand scale. The subject has dominated the intellectual world ever since. Sorry, I'm reading fast. Hold on. The devastating problem here is that although science uses mathematics for everything, it does not define what mathematics is and explain why it should be relevant to natural philosophy. Scientists regard mathematics as an unreal man-made abstraction. In which case, how can it have any connection to the real, non-made, concrete world, regarding which it has the opposite properties? Moreover, the first step of the scientific method is to observe the world. Yet, mathematics, if it's an unreal man-made abstraction, is not observable, hence can have no connection with the scientific method. But how can you have a method that culminates in mathematically expressed theories that in themselves refute the method, since mathematics is not a scientific observable? Right? That's a category error, a foundational logical refutation of the scientific method. Nobel laureate in physics Eugene Wigner wrote a paper called The Unreasonable Effectiveness of Mathematics in the Natural Science. How can science, a subject that claims to be rational and logical and to address observable reality, unreasonably rely on something it regards as unreal? How does that work? How does that make any sense? It simply doesn't. The scientific paradigm is full of disastrous anomalies and contradictions that have been more or less ignored for centuries because science has proven so useful and successful. No one wants or dares to challenge the golden goose. When paradigms fail, it is essential to bring about a paradigm shift to a new paradigm with fewer and preferably no anomalies and contradictions. Anything that refuses to accept its proven flaws is a religious faith. Is science now in that category? Can science evolve? Can a new paradigm be established that embraces the best of science while getting rid of all the aspects of science that don't make any rational sense? Ontological mathematics is that new paradigm. Science became successful when it embraced mathematics, but it adopted the bizarre attitude that mathematics is an abstraction unreasonably and inexplicably perfectly situated to what it's not, i.e., concrete reality. Ontological mathematics is a rational upgrade of science. The illogical scientific claim that an unreal subject, mathematics, can be used to describe reality is rejected and replaced by the revolutionary idea that mathematics is not only real and concrete, ontological, it is none other than reality itself. Mathematics is perfect for describing reality because reality is mathematics. What could be simpler and more straightforward than that? That's what Occam's razor and the principle of sufficient reason mandate. In science, matter is real, while mathematics, which is used to describe matter, is unreal. In ontological mathematics, matter is the appearance of mathematical information. All matter, if you could drill down far enough, would simply be discovered to be composed of mathematical basic entities. Ontological mathematics asserts that mathematical waves, sinusoids, are the ground of all existence and the true basis of matter. Lola. Hey. Relax. We in Hollywood, there's always people yelling outside. I'm actually pretty surprised I got to 27 minutes without that happening. Ontological mathematics asserts that mathematical waves, sinusoids, are the ground of all existence and the true basis of matter. Sinusoids are the ontological mathematical counterpart of scientific strings. Adam Mann wrote, string theory is an attempt to unite the two pillars of the 20th century physics, quantum mechanics, and Albert Einstein's theory of relativity with an overarching framework that can explain all of physical reality. It tries to do so by positioning that particles are actually one-dimensional, string-like entities whose vibrations determine the particle's properties, such as their mass and charge. This counterintuitive idea was first developed in the 1960s and 70s. The topic remained marginal for many years. Ontological mathematics, currently a marginal topic, asserts that if strings were properly understood by scientists, they would in fact be reduced to nothing but basis sine and cosine waves. Hence, the whole of science would reduce to sinusoidal mathematics, aka ontological mathematics. To get to the very root, you just find ontological mathematics. Back to the book. Ontological mathematics is strictly the mathematics of sinusoidal waves defined as the fiber and fabric of existence from which everything else is made and through which everything communicates. Ontological mathematics is, in effect, string theory converted into an analytical mathematical theory. Mathematics has radically different properties from science. Science is an empirical subject while mathematics is rational. Science is a perceptual subject while mathematics is conceptual. Science relies on the human senses while mathematics relies on reason and logic. There are two drastically different activities, which makes it all the more remarkable that mathematics stands at the core of science as its indispensable engine. No scientist has ever explained this, and it forms no part of the scientific enterprise to attempt a rational and logical explanation of this foundational contradiction. Science is a use system, not a truth system. Ontological mathematics is both a use and true system. All right, I'm gonna take a break and then do the rest later.